All right, everyone. Over the last half decade, you've seen a lot of pieces in the legacy media and a lot of bluster and bravado from political figures about the TDS vote, about people who are Republican or they lean towards conservative values. They would tend to vote Republican more often than not, but they're TDS suffers. They're never Trumpers, effectively. And how this was going to stop Donald, evil orange man can't get the Nikki Haley vote, etc., etc., etc. Why, therefore, am I seeing articles like this, link in the description, archived of course, where they worry about a protest vote against Joe Biden? Well, again, actions speak louder than words. The words are, hey, Trump can't make it because TDS. Trump can't make it because never Trumpers. But that's really dimmed down. The chorus of never Trump bravado has really been diminutive over the last couple of years. Instead, I keep seeing a spattering of legacy media articles rambling and worrying about the fact that people might not vote for Joe Biden and warning him, oh, hell will break loose if Biden's not reelected. Orange man will be back. So, shelve that protest vote. Don't you dare vote for, the person you think is most qualified, or for Mickey Mouse or whatever, or Joseph Stalin if you think that none of the candidates are actually applicable to your interests. Or don't stay home. If you protest vote for against Joe Biden, it's basically a vote for Donald Trump. I remember, though, for years they were saying that the never Trump vote was going to stop Orange Man. He seems to be well ahead in all of the swing state polling. He's ahead in general matchup polling. About the only thing flashing blue right now is the Democrats have an edge in the generic congressional ballot, and that's been bouncing back and forth this whole time, so it's kind of irrelevant. You've got a pretty unidirectional movement towards Trump in every other metric. Competitive states, some supposedly non-competitive states, Virginia, Maine, etc. You've got a spattering of polls there as well. Certainly general election matchup. I think this is predicated on their knowledge, their growing knowledge that all of the things they've thrown at Trump, number one, have failed. The lawfare, Steele dossier / Pissgate / Russiagate, various investigations, propaganda up the ass for years and years at a time. It's been a long time since we had a news cycle that was free in any given 24-hour period of at least one hit piece against Donald Trump, usually predicated on literal bullshit. None of this has stopped him. I don't think that they're really necessarily assured in their publicly stated belief that him being convicted of a crime would stop him either, and I don't think that they're necessarily self-assured that he's going to be convicted of anything. I think that they're looking at the ramifications of the indefinitely delayed Mar-a-Lago documents case, so that one's kind of off the table. The Fulton case is under appeal because Fani Willis is corrupt. Whether or not they remove her or not, it's maybe a no-win situation. You got a couple civil cases. You got Jean Carroll. You've got the Letitia James case, but those are civil, so those can't result in a conviction, just liability in the fiscal sense. And then you've got Bragg's case. The wheels are coming off that bus really quickly. I don't think that they think that anything that they're currently doing can legit stop him. So what they're trying to do is inject fear. Well, you remember all those terrible things that Orange Man did, like balance the economy, garner a deflationary period several times during his tenure as President of the United States, fail to cause a new war. That one really smarts for all of the McCains of the world. Clamp down on the border, actually get something accomplished there. Think about all the terrible things that happened under Trump. Basically, they're reduced to rambling about J6, which is a distant memory and nobody gives a fucking shit about unless they got TDS and they're not going to vote for the man anyway. They're terrified, therefore, of a protest vote. They know that if a few million people sit it out, vote third party, or vote for, a write-in, they vote for themselves, they vote for Mickey Mouse, they vote for Fred Tuttle, they know that that will sink any possibility of Joe Biden being reelected. It's really that close. Donald Trump is presumptively further ahead than he appears to be in polling if the last 4 election cycles are any indicator. And they know this. All of the public bravado about the never Trumpers, the Nikki Haley loyalists, and all of these things, he'll get convicted, he'll be on Rikers, whatever. None of these things in private do they consider to be particularly meaningful. So they've started releasing articles like this one to try to convince people of the gravity of the situation. You don't seem to understand the world will end if Donald Trump is reelected. He might fail to start another war for 4 years. He might end some of the wars that are currently going on. Wouldn't that be a dark day, now wouldn't it? He might balance the economy and fight inflation. He might actually do it successfully. Oh my God. Basically what they're worried about, in a nutshell, is this. This is what they're really worried about. I'll tell you a secret. They're worried not about him being reelected. They're worried about him being reelected and doing a good job. Because right now they're doing everything they can to obstruct and propagandize and stop Orange Man because he is genuinely dedicated to trying to break their toys. He wants to break the spine of globalism. Let me remind you again, one of his first main acts in office was to say he wouldn't sign the TPP. We should probably remember some of his more glowing moments from his presidency. I remember many of them fondly. First steps, right to try, anti-TPP, not starting a new war, brokering what would have originally been a good withdrawal from Afghanistan so we could finally save face after a 25-year-long war, etc., etc., etc. He did a good job. They're afraid he'll do a good job again. Not because they're afraid of Trump. Oh, no, no, no. They're peeved by Trump. They're mad at Trump. They are upset by Trump. They're afraid of what comes next. They're afraid of a dynastic period of populist and or small L libertarian / more classically liberal politicians coming in on the coattails of a second successful administrative term for Donald Trump and having to deal with the next guy or gal. They're afraid of that. They're afraid of a line of succession of presidents and of people within Congress that ride the wave of populistic sentiment into the White House and into Congress, and then they have to deal with them. And they don't think it'll be easy to do so. They're worried about the long game. They're not playing short game. These people have had 100 years to corrupt the United States. Well, technically more than that. They've been doing that since before the carpetbagging era, technically speaking. They've amassed a huge amount of money, a huge amount of power. They love to censor people. They love authoritarianism. They're afraid that for a prolonged period of time, at a bare minimum, they're going to be prevented in adding more layers of authoritarianism, censorship, and globalistic tripe. They're afraid of 20 years or something like that of actual improvement for the average person. They're afraid that people will do what they did under Trump's first term. First president since the JFK administration to reign over an economic period in which the actual purchasing power of the median income of the U.S. worker rose. In all other administrations, Republican and Democrat, since the 1960s, that purchasing power in real terms has fallen. Donald Trump is the only person in modern American history to reverse that trend. It wasn't a huge reversal. It was a matter of, in absolute purchasing power, a few thousands of dollars a year, but he did it. It was an economic miracle. The fact that he managed to actually accomplish that with several deflationary quarters is monumental. People do not give him nearly enough credit. Part of it was deregulation. Part of it was the unbridling of the energy industry. Part of it was the trade war with China, trying to create free trade by creating fair trade. A laundry list of different things that Trump did or tried to do that positively impacted the economy. And that's the major issue for people. Inflation, economy, intertwined, number one and number two, basically, and third, of course, the border, which he also successfully tackled. It was in the 11th hour, and it wasn't fully successful, but the attempt was largely successful, and I have no reason to believe he won't do that in a second term. If Trump is reelected, we can look for a rebalanced economy, the extension of his tax cuts, more attempts at the border, and now he's got a federal court's mandate to use that discretionary defense spending, by the way, to build his wall, so that'll be an expedited process. You'll probably see more heavy-handed deregulation, and you'll see the scrapping of would-be globalistic anti-free trade deals. These are all good things for the United States. They're terrified of protest voters because they're terrified of that situation. They're afraid he'll succeed. They'll do everything that they can to cast everything that he does off as negative, but the proof is in the pudding. When people go to the stores and they get less sticker shock, they'll say, "Thanks, Trump. That's real cool." When they pay less taxes, get the expanded child tax credit that will expire if Biden has his way. They'll say, "Thanks, Trump. You know, God, why did I vote for that fucking Joe dude?" They're afraid that he'll succeed so much that it'll lead to another presidency after he's gone that'll be much the same. They'll have to deal with yet another populist. The next one might be under 50. The next one, you might have several in a row. You could have Ron DeSantis take over, not fully populist, but it would be doable. And then like Tulsi or Rand Paul or something like that, you could have a whole slurry of different presidents and incarnations of Congress, attendant to Supreme Court justices, by the way. That's their real fear. that is completely amenable towards populism and wants to rip apart the current system because it doesn't work. They're afraid of much more than Donald Trump. They're afraid of you, they're afraid of me, and they're afraid of all the people that might ride his coattails. That's why they're putting out propagandistic articles saying, if you stay home or you vote for your conscience, and that might not be Joe Biden, then Biden loses, the world will end. It's like listening to a Krugman podcast. It's bullshit. That's about all. Peace out.